Elon Musk, founder of X.com, which later became PayPal, founder of SpaceX, Tesla Motors, The Boring Company, and probably several more companies after this video is published. He is a master at building businesses, big businesses, industry disrupting businesses. And today we're gonna tap into Elon's brain a little bit to discover how he thinks about problems and solutions to help you discover and tackle your first business too. I will say that by the end of this video, you're not just gonna have money magically appear in your pockets, but we are gonna understand how Elon thinks and some of the major principles he uses to tackle problems and solutions so that you can get started too. First, we're gonna talk about the 3 interwoven principles that Elon lives and breathes by. Then we're gonna go over a 3-step process with those principles in mind to help you get a result. And that's all we want, a result. Because if you're watching this right now, you've probably tried or have just dreamt about building a business and you haven't gotten a result yet. So let's work toward that. Also, before we get started, make sure you hit that like button. I appreciate that. And if you don't know who I am, my name is Pat Flynn. I help people start businesses, best-selling author, I keynote around the world. And most of all, I'm here to help people like you because I was in your position at one time after getting laid off in 2008. And all I needed to get me started was some help. And that's why I'm here to help you. And at the end, if you like what you hear, well, make sure you subscribe so you can get more. So let's get started. I wanna ask you, what is the #1 absolute worst thing you could tell yourself when you are thinking about starting a business? Maybe you have an idea, you've given it some thought, and then what's the worst thing you could say after that? Well, that's impossible. Do you think Elon said that to himself when he was thinking about building EV cars that had great range and were fast? Or when he's been thinking about colonizing Mars? Or building a tunnel system underground? Or selling a flamethrower to make money? No way. Elon doesn't think like that. Principle #1, nothing is impossible. That is, unless physics says so. I remember when I started my business back in 2008 to help architects pass an exam. I just got laid off from the architecture industry. I had this idea, I had been given this opportunity, and you know what I was telling myself? Well, that's gonna be impossible. And of course, I used confirmation bias to validate that in my head. So after getting excited about potentially writing a book to help these architects pass an exam, here's exactly what I told myself. Pat, you've never written a book before. This is never gonna happen. Pat, you didn't go to business school. You don't even know how to run a business or sell anything online. Pat, you aren't qualified to write a study guide. Leave that to the experts. Pat, even if you write this thing, it's just a waste of time. Nobody's gonna read it. Pat, you went to school for 5 years for architecture. You were meant to be an architect, not an entrepreneur. Can you relate to that? Do the initial what ifs, like what if this is awesome? What if this wins? What if this is a new thing for me? Change to those other what ifs? What if this doesn't work? What if nobody likes it? What if it's a failure? That's impossible, in my case, was an absolute false statement, and it's likely a false statement for you as well. It just felt impossible because I'd never done it before. But not knowing how to do something and then something being impossible, those are 2 completely different things. And if you don't believe that, well, I'm sorry, I can't help you anymore. One thing that really helped me was realizing that other people had done this before me, which was really nice and reassuring because I knew that, well, it's not impossible because somebody else has done this too, just in different industries. Reaching out to others and finding other people who have done those things before me and getting help from them, getting mentorship from them and learning from them, reading their books. It wasn't impossible, I just had to learn. When things seem impossible, try to see how you might be able to prove that. Try to uncover the underlying truth, which takes us to Elon's 2nd principle here, which is the idea of first principles. Elon talks about this all the time, and here's a video clip from him talking about exactly what he means by first principles.
By first principles is kind of a physics way of looking at the world. And what that really means is you kind of boil things down to the most fundamental truths and say, okay, what are we sure is true or as sure as possible is true? And then reason up from there. Mm-hmm. That takes a lot more mental energy.
Give me an example of that. Like what's one thing that you've done that on that you feel has worked for you?
Sure. So somebody could say, in fact people do, that battery packs are really expensive and that's just the way they'll always be because that's the way they've been in the past. You're like, well, no, that's pretty dumb, you know, because if you applied that reasoning to anything new, then you wouldn't be able to ever get to that new thing.
Right.
You know, it's like you can't say, oh, you know, horses. Nobody wants a car because horses are great and we're used to them and they can eat grass and there's lots of grass all over the place and you know there's no gasoline that people can buy, so people are never gonna get cars.
Right.
that people did say that.
Now, I'm not building rocket ships or electric vehicles like Elon Musk, but my videographer and I, we partnered together and we actually used first principles, that approach, to build a physical product in the videography space that launched quite well in February 2019. Let me walk you through it. First, let's start with the problem. Holding a camera for vlogging and being able to put it down for resting or filming on a table. This wasn't easy to do. The solution that most vloggers were using when we were tackling this problem was a popular flexible tripod, as you can see here, which was originally made flexible to wrap around trees and poles and get some really amazing shots from angles you couldn't get with anything else. Everyone who was vlogging had this, and they were using it for a completely different reason. So it just became the solution everybody was using. But was it the best solution? So we ended up using a first principles approach to discover the underlying truths, the fundamental pieces of this problem, so we could build back up from there and create a better solution. In reality, we needed it to, more than anything, just hold itself up on a table and be stable and be strong. The question was, well, did it have to be a tripod? It was interesting because we did a lot of research. There were a number of other types of solutions to hold cameras, like monopods and snake-looking things. However, tripods are tripods for a reason. Their configuration is strong and stable. And for the kinds of cameras people are using on their vlogs, bigger DSLR cameras, we really wanted to make sure that it was strong and sturdy. So we went with the tripod configuration. That was sort of first principle, baseline. Okay, let's build up from there. So again, at the fundamental level, what might this thing need to do? It needs to hold a camera, like I said. Not just be a sturdy base for a camera, but to actually hold the camera itself. So we looked at what was out there, and a lot of these solutions had ball heads with also plate adapters on them, just a lot of extra stuff that we found through our research wasn't actually necessary for the target audience that we had, which were vloggers. All that extra gear, the ball head, the plates, that added a lot of additional weight. And for vloggers, their most important reason for having a tool was to hold it while being on the go and to just be sturdy and steady on a table. So we ended up initially designing our solution without a ball head, without any plates. Simple, easy, did the job, fundamental. Again, at the fundamental level, we were like, okay, do the legs need to bend? Is the flexibility of the legs a requirement for our target audience to get use out of this thing and to do exactly what they wanted it to do? And in our research, we found out that, well, the answer was no. So we designed the legs of the tripod rigid and strong and out of metal so that it did what it needed to do and nothing more, and it did it extremely well. And that added stability and rigidity was also countering a lot of the problems that people were having with those flexible tripods. They were either falling over because they were unbalanced.
For a little extra. On my pajamas.
Or the balls on those flexible legs would just sort of begin to lose their strength and weaken over time and not even be able to hold a strong camera anymore. And then once again, to finish off at the fundamental level, we just needed this to be easy to hold and film sort of on the go with a really nice grip, sturdy, but also simple and easy so a person can get a quick shot, which was not possible with the bendy leg one. And that is when the SwitchPod was born. So like I said, rigid, strong, lightweight, easy to use, holds over 100 pounds. Doesn't wrap around trees, but guess what? If you need something to wrap around trees, go get that other thing. But if you want a sturdy, strong tripod that folds into each other, packs up lightly, only 11 grams, this is for you. Now, I'm not here to pitch this to you, although I just did. I just wanted to talk about how we use first principles to discover the shape, the sizing, and the fundamental design of our particular product, which launched in February of 2019 on Kickstarter. Now the business is thriving. It's on Amazon, it's on B&H and other retail stores. We're even having conversations with big box retailers now to test some spots in stores too. Amazing. When you break things down into first principles as you are starting out, you make things so much easier. As Elon says, simplicity enables both reliability and low cost. Think of cars. Is a Ferrari more reliable than a Toyota Corolla or Honda Civic? This is how Elon has reduced the cost for the things that he is producing right now. And in addition to reducing the costs, he's also speeding up the manufacturing process too. I'm talking about his cars, the rockets, and soon the starships. I mean, rockets used to cost $300 to $400 million. And now with Elon and his Falcon 9, I mean, they're going up to space for, 40, 50 million bucks, a significant decrease. And finally, this takes us to our third and final principle, the one that takes us from conceptualization to reality. And that is first results execution. Before Tesla came around, EVs, electric vehicles, were considered dead on arrival. Any attempt in the past to make EVs was just not well received at all. First of all, they were ugly, they were expensive, there was very, very little range. Nothing really worth talking about. And then the hybrids, you know, the Priuses and whatnot had come about a little bit, but they never really took on. They were more for the sort of more environmental driver more than anything. Elon, however, had a plan with Tesla, and it was a multi-stage plan that was going to take a number of years. Building a solid business takes time, but if you have a plan or at least an approach that you'd like to take, a multi-stage process to get there, starting with the first result execution, well, you could speed things up entirely. Here's what Elon posted on Tesla's website August 2nd, 2006. It was, in short, his master plan, which was 4 steps. Number 1, build sports car. Number 2, use that money to build an affordable car. Number 3, use that money to build an even more affordable car. Number 4, while doing the above, also provide zero-emission electric power generation options. The plan, well, guess what? It worked. The sports car was the Tesla Roadster. Money from that was used to build and manufacture the Tesla Model S and the X at the same time. And then that money's been used to build and manufacture the Model 3s and the soon to come, or at least maybe you're watching this now, the Tesla Ys that are now available too, which are more mass market, much cheaper, but the plan's working. That first step though, the Tesla Roadster, was this idea of the first result execution. Elon's dream was to build an affordable car that the masses would use, electric vehicles for everybody. However, he knew he couldn't start there. He needed to provide a result first. So he created the Tesla Roadster to prove to everybody who had objections that, hey, EVs can be fast, they can be fun, and they can have longer ranges too. And if that didn't do the trick for people, well, then there was no point in moving on. But he knew that it would work, and it did. So he built the Roadster on actually a Lotus vehicle, and it was fast, it was awesome, it impressed everybody and blew them away, which then opened up the doors to building the Model S and the X, and then the Model 3 and the Model Y after. Here's the truth. If you're gonna be starting a business, don't worry about getting 1,000 customers or 100 customers or even 10 customers right away. Focus on getting one person, one customer, one client, one result. It's not scalable, and it's gonna take more time up front. But through the process of getting that first result, here's what's gonna happen. Number 1, it proves that the solution works. And guess what? It's also an amazing way to validate that it works, because if it doesn't, well, at least it's only contained with that one potential customer or the few that you try out in the beginning versus the world that sees this product or solution of yours and is not interested at all. And it would be a shame for them and for you to learn about that after. Prove it with one person or one client first. Number 2, it's gonna help you understand the process of how to deliver this solution. Doesn't matter what it is, physical product, digital product, going through the process of helping find one result for one customer is gonna teach you a lot about, well, what actually is at stake here, and what does it take, and how might you actually interact with this person? What is gonna get them to say yes so that other people can say yes too? It may also teach you that you actually don't like or enjoy this. And what a great way and time to find out now before later, when even if it is successful, but you hate it. We don't want that either. Number 3, it can get you some funds initially if you pre-sell it, for example. Number 4, it'll offer you an actual real life testimonial, one that you can then use to prove that this solution works for other clients, other leads who may be interested in working with you too or buying your product. And number 5, and the most important one of all, the one that's gonna unlock for you as a first-time business owner, this will prove that you can do it, that it's no longer impossible. Trust me with this one. Even if it's just a couple dollars that you earn as a result of offering something to somebody, it changes something in here mentally. And then when you start talking about it with others later, there's just a renewed or new confidence that comes with that. And people can read through that. Because the truth is, if you're not confident about what you're selling, well, how can you expect others to be confident in what you're selling either? All great things after you get that first result for somebody. So get that. That's what you want. So let's recap those 3 principles really quick before we move on to our step-by-step process so that you could start your business and get some results too. So principle number 1, nothing is impossible unless physics says so. Number 2, first principle, thinking. Go down to the underlying truths, the fundamentals, and then build them back up from there. And number 3, first results, execution. Serve one person, one client, one customer, get them a result. Everything will happen after that. So how might you take these principles and turn it into action? Well, I'm glad we're talking about this because a lot of times you hear about principles and it's just like, okay, well, what do I do with this information? Here's what you do. 3 steps, super simple. Step number 1, find a problem. If you're having trouble trying to determine what a problem might be, well, go and talk to people. Find a particular market, see what they're struggling with. Ask them questions like, what's your biggest challenge right now? Or ask them questions like, what was the last thing you bought that didn't actually go to plan and you were a little bit disappointed by? These are all awesome questions that you could use to determine where the problems are in your target market. And might I recommend also my book, Will It Fly, which goes through a much more extensive process of research and determining problems. But likely you can find them. They're there. You just got to keep your eyes and ears open. Step 2, use first principle thinking to uncover the building blocks that can then be used to create a solution. So in this problem, what are the fundamental truths here? And again, conversation with your target market is going to be really helpful at this point. And you could even find discussions online and look at other solutions and look for reviews of what's out there right now so you can determine, well, what are the problems with what people have attempted to provide a solution for? So anyway, first principle thinking, going to the underlying fundamental truths, and then building a solution back up from there. And then step number 3, testing that solution with one person, one client, one customer to get what? One result. That's what you want, the one result. So let's get that first customer. Let's get that first client. Let's get it. You can do it. It's simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. Hopefully I've simplified it for you because I know that we tend to overcomplicate things. And just to give you some reassurance, if you have overcomplicated things in the past, guess what? Welcome to being an entrepreneur. That's just what we do. And if at any point in this 3-step process, the cycle, something doesn't work, well, go back to the previous step where it did and then keep going from there. Part of entrepreneurship is also failing. It's trying and failing and getting to a learning point. That's what it's all about. True failure only happens when you give up. Elon, if you watch this one day, thank you so much for your inspiration. I'm a big fan. Thank you for helping me think bigger. Thank you for allowing me to channel you through this YouTube channel to everybody watching this right now. So really quick, if you enjoyed any part of this video, make sure you hit that like button and consider subscribing. I would appreciate that because I have a lot more to share with you here to serve you as a business owner, no matter what level you're at. I just want to share because a lot has happened in my life. When I started entrepreneurship, so many great things. I want to pass it on to you too. Now, really quick, can you do me a quick favor? Comment below and let me know which of these principles do you feel is the most important? To me, I think they're all important, but which one for you has been the biggest revelation to help you kickstart your business career today? Let me know in the comment section below. Team Flynn, you're amazing. Thank you so much for being here and the support. I appreciate you. Wishing you all the best. And as always, Team Flynn for the win. Peace.